The season is winding down. Most teams only have about 10, 11, maybe 12 games left, so now's about the time I'm going to start to make the videos that I usually make to end off every single season. In this video, I'm going to be going over the biggest breakout players from the 21-22 NHL season. Every single year, there are guys that come out of nowhere and really make a name for themselves, but I feel like this season there was a lot more than we usually see, so we've got a good crop of players to talk about today. Of course, if there's anybody that I don't mention that you feel is having a big breakthrough season, be sure to let me know down below in the comment section. Now with that all being said, let's go ahead and get started. The first player we will go over is one of two St. Louis Blues that are featured in this list, the first being Ivan Barbashev, and this is one of the more random ones I feel like in this video. He's not a guy that I really ever expected to have a breakthrough season and become really anything more than a bottom six checking forward who can chip in a little bit of offense here and there. Throughout the first 5 seasons of his NHL career, Barbashev has never averaged more than 13.5 minutes of ice time per game. However, this season, Barbashev was given a much bigger role. He's averaging a little bit over 16.5 minutes of ice time per game now, and he's really taken this opportunity and ran with it. In 69 games this season, he has put up career highs across the board: 22 goals, 28 assists, 50 total points. Those 50 points are 24 higher than his previous career high, which was 26. And even with this newfound offensive production, Barbashev has not shied away from, the physical aspect of his game that made him a valuable piece for St. Louis before he really broke out offensively. He's got 135 hits on the season. That is just 11 shy of a career high for him, so he's likely going to set a new career high this season in hits as well. He's giving the Blues this kind of production while making just $2.25 million this season and next. Definitely one of the better value contracts in the league when you consider the way he's played this year. Moving on to the next breakout player, this is a guy I've talked about at length so far this season, so I won't spend too much time on him. This is an obvious one: Troy Terry of the Anaheim Ducks. After having just 15 goals throughout the first 129 games of his career, Troy Terry exploded this season. He's got 31 goals in 65 games, 57 total points. He was the Anaheim Ducks All-Star representative this year. He also recorded a point streak of 16 games earlier in the season, becoming the youngest player in Ducks franchise history to record a point streak of 15 or more games. That point streak is also tied for the third longest in Ducks franchise history. The only two players with longer point streaks than Troy Terry's 16 from this season are Teemu Selanne and Corey Perry. Troy Terry has been absolutely lights out for the Ducks this season, and it's a great sign for Anaheim because heading into this season, he was a guy that you weren't sure if he was going to be a big part or any part of the Ducks' future or not, but now, without a doubt, he's going to be a core player for them moving forward. Moving along now, we have who is, in my opinion, the most random breakout player from this season. I don't think anybody could have seen this coming. Mason Marchment of the Florida Panthers. Undrafted 26-year-old. I believe Florida picked him up from Toronto for Dennis Mulligan, a trade that at the time nobody even took a second glance at. Looking back at that trade now though, what an absolute steal for the Florida Panthers, as Mason Marchment has become a very solid contributor for them and an important part of their team. He's got 15 goals, 25 assists, 40 points in 45 games, career highs across the board. And the most impressive thing about those numbers that Mason Marchment is putting up is the fact that he's doing it while averaging under 14 minutes of ice time per game, getting little to no looks on the power play. He has a couple power play points, I believe, but 95% of his points have came at even strength. And this season, across the entire NHL, Mason Marchment is actually third in the league in terms of even strength points per 60 minutes, only behind Jonathan Huberdeau, his teammate, and Johnny Gaudreau. When the Panthers have the third line together of Marchment, Lundell, and Reinhart, I feel like those three together have to be the best third line in the entire National Hockey League, at least if you just look at it production-wise. I mean, Reinhart and Lundell are both having great seasons as well. Moving along now, next up we have the one and only defenseman on this list, the Devon Toews of the Colorado Avalanche. Now this is a bit of an interesting one because he's definitely not a guy that completely came out of nowhere like some of the other players we've already talked about in this video. Everybody knew that Devon Toews was a damn good defenseman even back when he was on the New York Islanders, and even going back to last season, his first full year with the Colorado Avalanche, he was a beast. But this season, he is just on a completely different level. You can make the argument that he's been one of Colorado's most valuable players this season. I feel like if he hadn't missed as many games as he has, he probably would be in the Norris conversation. In just 59 games, he's got a career-high 13 goals, a career-high 40 assists, and a career-high 53 points. He's also a plus 48, and I know plus-minus is not the greatest stat to judge a player by, but when you're plus 48, I feel like it's at least worth mentioning. scoring, and on the season, Devon Toews is also averaging over 25.5 minutes of ice time per game, which is insane. He is an absolute horse on the blue line, and it's pretty crazy to look back and think that Colorado was able to pick Devon Toews up from the Islanders without giving up a first-round pick or even a top prospect. Next up, we have the second and final St. Louis Blue I'll talk about in this video, Robert Thomas, and while I'm at it, I'll give an honorable mention to Jordan Kyrou as well, because I very well could have featured him in the video too. Robert Thomas is a guy that I feel like a lot of people expected to eventually have a big breakthrough season. This is a guy who had 42 points in 66 games in his sophomore season. He was a former first-round pick, but after last season where he only had 12 points in 33 games, I don't really think anybody could have expected the season that Robert Thomas is having now. Like many of the other players we've talked about today, career highs across the board for Robert Thomas in 60 games. He's got 16 goals, 44 assists, 60 points, so he's exactly a point per game. He's really developed into one of the more underrated playmakers in the league. I feel like he should get a good bit of credit for the season that Vladimir Tarasenko is having. Those two have some great chemistry together. Now that Robert Thomas is getting the top line minutes and he's producing at this rate, he's a player that I fully expect to be around a point per game year in and year out for the next 5 to 7 years. Moving on now to the next breakout player from the Buffalo Sabres, Tage Thompson, who is apparently 6'7" without skates, which I'm just learning. I mean, I knew he was tall, but I didn't think he was that tall. What a season he's having for Buffalo. Throughout the first 144 games of his career, he had just 18 goals, and then boom, this season he's got 31 in just 67 games, 55 total points. The absolute definition of a breakout season. He's been a nightmare for other teams to defend against on the power play. He's really got a deceptive shot, really sneaky quick release. He's gotten really good at protecting the puck, using his size and leveraging that to put himself in good positions. Tage Thompson has been a massive bright spot this season for the Buffalo Sabres, and I would say an unexpected one as well, and this is a great sign for Buffalo because it makes that Ryan O'Reilly trade look a lot less awful for the Buffalo Sabres, because originally when that deal happened, Tage Thompson was supposed to be one of the bigger pieces coming back to Buffalo in that deal, but obviously his first couple seasons with the team were definitely underwhelming. Next up, from the New Jersey Devils, we have Jesper Bratt, who in my opinion is one of the most exciting players to watch in the entire league. The way he's able to create something out of nothing. If you haven't watched many Devils games this season, and if you're a Devils fan, I guess you probably haven't, you should definitely tune into a couple games because they've got some electric players to watch, Jesper Bratt being one of them. Throughout the first 4 seasons of his career, he was hovering in between 30 and 35 points a season, but this year he has really broke out, taken his game to a whole other level. He's got a career high 65 points in 65 games, so he's exactly a point a game player. He's got very solid underlying defensive numbers as well. Jesper Bratt this season has really developed into the ideal first line two-way forward, and to think the New Jersey Devils got this guy in the 6th round back in the 2016 draft, definitely one of the bigger draft steals in recent memory. And now for the final player we're going to talk about in this video, Jesper Bratt's New Jersey Devils teammate Jack Hughes, the first overall pick from the 2019 NHL draft. And to think about all the people that wrote Jack Hughes off after a couple of mediocre seasons to start his NHL career, he has officially arrived this year. 49 games, career highs across the board, 26 goals, 30 assists, 56 points. Especially just over the past couple of months, he has been one of the most dominant offensive players in the entire league when he's been healthy. Jack Hughes is putting up these kind of numbers on a New Jersey team that isn't good either. Just think about once they start to turn the corner in this rebuild, once they actually become a good team, I think Jack Hughes is going to be a guy that every single year we can see him be competing and be right there in the conversation for the Art Ross Trophy. But that is going to wrap up today's video. Those were 8 NHL players having big breakthrough seasons. Like I said at the beginning, if there are any players that you think are having a big breakout year that I didn't mention in this video, be sure to let me know down below in the comment section. And while you're down there, if you could, please drop a like on the video. That's the best way to show your support, and I'd really appreciate it. And if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.